Another area Gary really could have focused on is operational cadence, right? Cedar Fork said, we're hands-on, but we help you with strategy. Gary really didn't get into the details. What does it actually mean? So again, if we start with the private equity firms and then we cross-reference with former portfolio or platform presidents, we can get a really solid idea of what's going on. So, for example, questions that Gary might have is, okay, who actually is forging strategy for the company? Who's actually putting together the budgets and the forecasts and the targets that we need to hit, right? Is this something that's mandated from the top down? We've got some finance nerds in the background saying, hey, this business should be growing 15% per year organically, which is near impossible. Or is this something that you and your team are using aggressive goals because obviously you're an investor in here and you want to grow the heck out of this business, but is this coming from you or is it coming from them? And again, portfolio presidents, how do they deal with you? What's the cadence? Do you report to these guys daily, weekly, monthly, quarterly? And what level of approval do you need for ordinary day-to-day decisions? Does the private equity firm and the board step in for big asset disposals, acquisitions, refinancings, or if you need to buy a new truck or hire a new mid-level manager, do you have to go to the board? Again, ask the questions of the private equity firm, cross-reference. When I talk to sellers who've sold to private equity, I hear a variety of different things, and it's a spectrum. On one end of the spectrum, I hear, hey, I've been buried in constant Zoom calls and updates. On the other end of the spectrum is, hey, Paul, I feel like I didn't even really do a deal. We have quarterly board meetings and they check in to make sure we're hitting our numbers. But other than that, I don't hear from them. And then there's a wide ground in between. Understanding this operating philosophy is going to be paramount to you, especially if you're like Gary and you want to run the business, you want to forge strategy, you want to make acquisitions. You're probably, and if you're competent, you're probably going to want more of a hands-off approach. You're going to want the private equity firm to say, man, Gary really knows what he's doing. He's done a great job over 30 years. He's really growing this. Let's not touch this. Let's provide him the resources that he needs, and he's going to grow this investment for us. So if that's you, that's the cadence you want. Other folks, though, might find themselves in a position where the business has somewhat outgrown them. And this is a real situation where you've worked for many years, you had a $5 million firm, then a $10 million firm, now you got a $50 million in revenue business. And you're feeling like it's getting a little chaotic and complex for you, like you don't have the skills and resources to manage it like you used to. That's okay. You might want more of a hands-on approach. You might want them recruiting and bringing on an operator to help you. And again, that at the end of the day, you're trying to safeguard your investment and they're trying to safeguard theirs. So this isn't a pride thing. If you need that help, you might want more of a consistent operating cadence at a shorter interval where the private equity firm is checking in with you more often and providing more assistance. So it depends upon your capabilities and it depends upon your desire. But you've got to make sure that operating philosophies match. Some firms are very hands-off. I've done a lot of deals with private equity firms that are very, very hands-off. I've also done some that are hands-on. If there's not a good match between you and them, there's going to be friction. And then you're going to find yourself like Gary, hating getting out of bed every morning. One of the most important things when partnering with private equity is actually starting off on the right foot. And what I mean by that is making sure that the deal terms are appropriate from the get-go. So you get to the closing table, then you get into post-close, you don't have all sorts of awkwardness. Let me give you some examples. If you're partnering with private equity, are you investing pari passu with them? So in Gary's case, he rolled 30% of that business, a $100 million transaction, 30 million gets rolled. Now he's partnered with Cedar Fork Capital. Do they both own the same slug of equity with the same rights? Are they both in at common? Are they in at common and preferred? Or does the private equity firm have any liquidation preference, for example, on top of that, meaning that they get paid out before Gary does in the event something goes awry? A lot of these deal terms get buried in equity participation and purchase agreements, and they need to be vetted. And that's why I always say in a competitive process, it's extremely important that that all gets figured out in the term sheet, even before you get to the asset purchase agreement. What sort of equity is being acquired here. Further, where's there a management fee, right? So the private equity firm sits up at top, and then we've got the fund below. The private equity firm will typically take a management fee from the fund. Is the private equity firm taking the management fee before you get paid? Or is there no management fee on your equity? Are you excluded from that? And it's a very important aspect because management fees can be anywhere between 1% and 3% annum, which over time will hit your returns. So understanding that, I'm not saying what's right or wrong. It's obviously preferred that you're not paying a management fee, and there are a lot of private equity firms that will do that. Understanding that, so there's no confusion, and you can bake that into your projected returns, I think is very, very important from the outset. And again, had Gary run a competitive process, he would have been able to eliminate a lot of these things as issues because all the private equity firms would have been on the same footing. The purchase price would have been driven up simultaneously, and a lot of the funky terms that were anti-Gary would have been removed from the term sheet, as opposed to him just dealing directly with one acquirer with zero competition and, quite frankly, zero incentive to remove anything that in any way, shape, or form impaired their position in the investment. Here at Potomac, we love to kill it for our clients. And I think that education is the cornerstone which allows our clients to make the best decisions for themselves. The more you can understand about the nuances of how strategic acquirers work, how the operations of private equity firms work, and the psychology and the tactics of an M&A transaction, the better you're going to be when it comes time to pull the trigger. If you own a business and you're being contacted by strategic acquirers, search funds, private equity firms, and you're trying to size up what you might do, take a step back and give us a call. We'll help you forge a plan, whether that exit is a year from now, 5 years from now, or 10 years from now. We'll help you think through a plan that is specifically tailored to your financial goals and objectives. So please contact us directly. I've put a link to the contact form in the description of this video, and you can also contact me directly on LinkedIn. Again, you can click on the link below to download the questions you should ask private equity. This is a culmination of 20 plus years and billions of dollars in transaction with private equity, and these are the questions that I recommend clients ask private equity firms before they do a transaction. It's probably something you're not going to want to miss. Further, if you got value from this video, you're not going to want to miss what we have coming up here in the coming weeks. We'll be doing the valuation masterclass. We'll be kicking off the buy-side M&A masterclass, and we've got a lot more to say on private equity. And feel free to share this masterclass series with somebody who you think might benefit from it. Again, I'm Giannamore. Thank you for joining me today, and I'll see you on the next one.